Well, good afternoon, everybody. It is a beautiful day, huh? Yeah. We were just talking earlier, three weeks ago, we were snowmobiling yet. And boy, ice is coming out on the lakes real fast and all the rest, so it's just great to be here. My name is Tom Tiffany. I'm the state senator for this district, the 12th Senate District that includes Oconto Falls. And we're really excited to have this announcement today in regards to the expansion of broadband. We have some good friends with us that are going to speak here in just a minute. But first of all, a big thank you to the Oconto Falls School for allowing us to use your facility. Thank you so much for allowing us to do that. It's a wonderful facility you have here, and great to be here. Infrastructure is so important. We're going to talk about broadband today, but I think about that in terms of Oconto Falls here. Highway 22 being redone a couple years ago, new sewer, water, all those things. Those are really the fundamentals that we need to do as a state to make sure, as a state and as local communities, to make sure that businesses and individuals are going to locate here in Wisconsin. There are so many good things that are happening in Wisconsin here, and to continue to make that happen, we do need to have good infrastructure, sewer, water, good roads, broadband, all those things. I look like up in our territory where Wisconsin Public Service has dedicated enormous resources to burying power lines underground to make sure that we have good, reliable electrical service. It's happening in so many different ways here in Wisconsin, and especially northern Wisconsin. And it's really all good news here as we go forward. So today we're here to talk a little bit about the expansion of broadband. We got some really good news from people that are up here at the podium with me, and they're going to share that here in a couple minutes. I want to be sure to mention one of my colleagues in the legislature, Representative Mursaw, is here. Jeff Mursaw is here. Jeff's been serving this area for this region for over a decade, and Jeff's going to come up and join us when we do our listening session. We're going to start out with a press conference. We were originally just going to do a listening session. I talked to my staff. We've been doing a number of listening sessions across the district on different issues, and we figured we'd bring Angie along as the broadband director if she was available, and we'd just do a listening session here in Oconto Falls. Well, after the announcement of the broadband grants, and just with the great news in regards to TV white space and how little so many people know about it, it really morphed into something much bigger, and today we're going to do that press conference. And by the way, to that point in regards to bringing members of the administration up here, my colleagues, Representative Mursaw, Representative Swearingen, and Representative Felskowski, who are the assembly members of my Senate district, we're all working together here in the ensuing months here to bring people from the administration, including secretaries up here, to be able to talk about the issues that are really important to people and to be able to hear from people here in northern Wisconsin about what they want to see done, questions, comments, and concerns. And we had a couple great listening sessions with Secretary Ross, the head of the Department of Transportation, last week. A week ago Monday, he was in Crivitz, did a listening session there, and then we went over to Merrill and had a lot of really good questions and great input from Secretary Ross telling about the good things happening at the Department of Transportation. So anyhow, with that, we have a partnership with TV Whitespace up in this region, Microsoft, working with Packerland Broadband. And first, I'd like to turn it over to Michelle Schuler from Microsoft, and if you want to share a few words with us.
Thank you. Hope that's not loud. So first, my name is Michelle Schuler, and I am the manager of Wisconsin's Tech Spark Initiative. And so thank you very much, Senator Tiffany. And so the Tech Spark program is really designed to work in partnership with both educators, nonprofits, other businesses, and governments to accelerate economic growth here in Northeast Wisconsin. Our Tech Spark focus areas are really, one of our Tech Spark focus areas is closing on the rural broadband gap here with the Airband initiative. So thank you to Senator Tiffany, Director Dickison, our partner Packerland, and Connect America's Now Is there anyone here from Connect Americas? Okay. Your commitment really to enabling broadband access to more than 44% of the people living here in rural Wisconsin. Much like electricity was essential in the 20th century economy, broadband connectivity is essential here in the 21st century economy. It's critical for our students' ability to do homework, for a veteran to access telemedicine services, and for farmers' ability to use precision agriculture on a family-run or independent farm, and for small businesses to expand their customer base and create new jobs. Microsoft is proud to partner with Packerland Broadband to bring broadband internet access in part by using TV white spaces. The Microsoft Packerland partnership will bring up to about 82,000 people living in rural northern Wisconsin and the UP over the next 4 years. Microsoft's Airband initiative has committed to connecting 2 million people to broadband by the year 2022. By closing the rural broadband gap can't be achieved by a single company, organization, or government. It requires all of us to partner to make sure Wisconsin is fully connected. So working together, we can help bring the benefits of broadband to every corner of the state and the region. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Michelle. And I know when Tom Fonfera came to us and said that there was Microsoft had some interest in really expanding what is happening in rural America. I mean, it really is a terrific program that you're putting together. It's going to benefit not only rural Wisconsin, rural Michigan, but also rural parts of the United States, and it's really terrific that you folks have taken that initiative because sometimes we wonder if we're forgotten here in these small towns, right? And this is an example of we're not forgotten, and that's really a terrific thing. Next, we have Cory Heigl here. He's with Packerland, and Cory's, it's great to have you here, and share a few remarks if you'd like to.
Yeah, I will. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, I'm Cory Heigl, General Manager and Vice President of Packerland Broadband. We're your cable provider here in Oconto Falls, and we provide internet and voice in our markets. Thank you, Senator Tiffany. Appreciate you putting this together, and the rest of the folks here on stage. I'm looking forward to the Q&A afterwards. First of all, we're a rural broadband provider. That's what we do. We don't operate networks in big cities, even cities the size of Green Bay. In fact, Oconto Falls is one of the biggest areas that we actually operate. We have 60 communities in Michigan and Wisconsin, upper Michigan and Wisconsin. We don't deal with below the Mackinac Bridge too well. We're a rural broadband provider. That's what we do. So second, I want to thank Microsoft Corporation for really challenging the United States, challenging providers like us, challenging local governments, communities to think a little bit differently. We're real proud to be part of the TechSpark program and the Airband initiative, and we're going to bring broadband connectivity to tens of thousands of people, as we've been alluding to. At Packerland, it's our mission to provide rural broadband connectivity at an affordable rate, and that's what we intend on doing. Last summer, I was listening to something on the internet. Anyway, it was about Microsoft challenging folks to get off their duffs and figure this out. Figure out that there's other technologies out there that haven't been widely adopted, like TV white spaces, and that they can make a difference. And we listened. Their mission aligned with ours, and we were excited about that. So we tracked you folks down and had some fun conversations along the way. And we realized our missions were identically aligned. It was about changing the rural landscape by bringing infrastructure, as Senator Tiffany talked about today. And infrastructure, broadband is today. It just is. Everybody deserves a connection, needs a connection in most cases. So traditionally, we've been kind of quarantined, if you will, to providing wireline services in our zip codes. So Oconto Falls, not just out in town, but not outside of town. In Suring, but not outside of Suring. In Gillett, but not outside of Gillett. And every month we get hundreds and hundreds of phone calls across our footprint of folks wanting a broadband connection. Hundreds. Our agents are on the phone every day with folks that are desperately hoping we would bring broadband to their area. And as we know, it's not an easy riddle to solve, and there's no silver bullet, as we alluded to here. It takes a lot of people thinking alike, wanting to get something done, and working together, casting aside differences, whether they're competitive or political, and just getting something done. And that's why we really fell in love with the ecosystem that Microsoft created, and what the state of Wisconsin is creating for this world. There's three main problems with rural broadband connectivity. Number one is access technologies. There's a bunch of different platforms out there, and if you're in the city, you likely have a decent connection. If you're in the country, you likely don't. So there's an access issue, and that's what we're working real hard to solve. That's what we kind of do. We're the engineers of the world, if you will, on figuring out how to architect networks to touch people. But there's a couple other things that we got to think about. Number one, affordability. It has to be affordable. And we can't bring technologies that will make us go broke delivering them, or make it unaffordable for residences and small businesses to consume them. The other side of that is, and the third point is adoption or education. There's a lot of folks out in those rural markets that aren't speaking up to say, I want broadband, because they're scared of it. They don't know how to compute. They don't know how to consume. It's really an issue of digital literacy. And that's where I'm really excited about Microsoft's efforts and in the TechSpark program, because we need to bring programs together with the access, with the affordable access, to allow people to learn how to consume safely, and adopt a digital lifestyle, and really enhance their lives with telemedicine and online education mechanisms and components. So beyond that, we're going to be offering a lot of cloud-based services to our consumers. Microsoft's Azure platform will be something we can offer to little businesses that might not have otherwise used these types of services. And we're going to be teaming with K-12, higher education, local communities, townships, counties of our friends at the state, and we're going to find different ways, because the problem isn't identical outside of Oconto Falls as it is outside of Superior, Wisconsin. So each one of them is a little different riddle to solve, but we can do it together. Lastly, I want to thank Angie and the Wisconsin Public Service Commission, Governor Walker's office, for the Rural Broadband Grant Initiative that they started in 2014, correct? This year, Packerland was a recipient of 3 of those awards. We're going to be doing work in Marinette County, Southern Forest County, and Eau Claire and Chippewa counties. And we're really excited about those efforts. It shows that we're involved in a state that recognizes the need for this infrastructure, number one. Number two, cares about its citizens enough to make a difference and challenge us as providers to partner with public agencies to really do something creative. And one of these things are going to stick, and it's going to be big. And we're really hoping what we're bringing together with Microsoft is really going to be that recipe. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Cory. I really look forward to seeing the work that you guys are going to do here over the next couple years. And I think one of the terms that Cory used that's really important is affordable, because almost everybody can get internet in one way or another. It's a matter of whether it's affordable for your family. I remember a number of years ago when we were using one of the options that was out there with our family in a remote area, northern Wisconsin. We're spending, I think we had a monthly bill that was over $200. That's simply not affordable. And that's really what we're shooting for here, is not just to have broadband service, because most everyone can get that. It's having affordable broadband service that is so important, and that's what we're shooting for. One of my favorite people in the administration I'm going to introduce next, but I want to share a little story about how rural broadband expansion, that program that started in 2014, how it's working. So there's a couple small providers that are over in Eagle River, and they're really terrific to work with. They're mom and pop businesses, and they're really doing a good job of rolling out additional broadband to rural parts of Vilas and Oneida counties. But anyhow, they got up to, as part of the grant program, they extended service up into to Land O'Lakes. Land O'Lakes, right up on the border, the Upper Peninsula border. And there's a woman from Chicago who has a vacation home up there. And she was looking at, she has a concierge service down in Chicago, and she was looking at expanding her business, and she was looking at Tampa, Florida. Well, she came up and she found out what we were doing up here with the broadband expansion program, and that there was fiber that ran right to a building that she could use in Land O'Lakes. And she ultimately made the decision, Land O'Lakes, Wisconsin, rather than Tampa, Florida. Isn't that a great story? Those are the kind of successes that we're sure hoping to see throughout northern Wisconsin here as we're able to expand broadband. So next, the broadband director for the state of Wisconsin. Just been a great pleasure to work with her. She's been on the job, how many years now, Angie? 2.5. 2.5 years. And she's really done great things, and as we continue to expand the program, there's going to be continued great things. Angie Dickison, who's the broadband director for Wisconsin.
What a great way to start the week, huh? Senator, thank you so much for your leadership and everything that you've done, Representative Bursaw. Pleasure to work with all of you, and thanks to your leadership, thanks to Governor Walker's leadership, we have a broadband expansion program that is impacting communities around the state. So again, thank you so very much for what you do. Yes, we are excited to talk about broadband expansion grants, and particularly happy to be here today to talk about the partnership between Packerland and Microsoft utilizing TV white space technologies. You know, it's going to take all kinds of different technology to get rural America and rural Wisconsin served, and so we're always delighted to hear about folks trying new things. And thank you, Microsoft, and thank you, Packerland, for what you're endeavoring here. You know, a few weeks ago, the Public Service Commission awarded broadband expansion grants, and like Cory mentioned, there are two projects in this area of the state that are going to be utilizing TV white space technology. But I want to mention a few other grants that were awarded since we're right here in Oconto County. A company, Ensight, received a grant. I just lost my spot in my notes. Ensight received a $49,000 grant to bring fiber to a business park here. And the big news in Oconto County is the grant that was awarded to Bertram Communications, largest grant award in our program's history, a $600,000 grant, and that's going to improve service in 7 townships here in Oconto County. So that's fantastic news. Thanks to all of you for your work together. And it really, our grant program is built on a solid foundation of public-private partnerships. And I think you can see that in the endeavors with Microsoft and TV Whitespace and the communities that are going to be served here. On the TV Whitespace front, you know, in December, Governor Walker called on the FCC, or the Federal Communications Commission, to finalize rules to increase access to broadband internet by advancing TV whitespace technology, and specifically reserving channels in communities so that this service could be deployed. So we're very hopeful about that possibility as well. And last thing I want to leave you with, again, a testament to Senator Tiffany and Representative Bursaw, and of course the governor. Our grant program first awarded grants in 2014. With this last grant round, we're up to 101 grants awarded, impacting 46 communities across the state. That's pretty impressive. And I want folks to know we've got another grant funding opportunity to come up. Our last budget put a historic amount of funding into our grant program, so we've got $7 million in funding available. Those applications will be due in July 16th to be specific. So thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, so since this is a press conference, if there's members of the media that are here, we'd love to have you throw your questions out, and we'll try to answer them here. And then when we're done with the media, then we're going to go to our listening session part of this. By the way, Vicki Roberts, the city administrator, is here in Oconto Falls. Good to have you here, Vicki, as well as Paul Erfurth, the head of the Economic Development Corporation for Oconto County, who did such good work to get the biggest grant in the history of the program for Oconto County. Good job. Yeah, absolutely. So anyhow, questions?
Did you say when you're expected to work here in Oconto County?
The question is, when does Packerland expect to work here in Oconto County?
So, can you hear me all fine? Good. We've already got a test site here in Oconto Falls right now. We haven't commercially deployed it yet, but we're playing around with it and learning how to dial it in. So it might not be very long. I would say midsummer at the latest.
So the grant, the $600,000 grant that was given for Oconto County was for a wireless solution, and that was given to Bertram Communications. So that was as we've been talking about, there's a variety of ways to find solutions here, and in this instance, in that northern part of Oconto County, the wireless solution seemed to be the best route to go. And but of course, there was the grant, which is, I believe, is going to be fiber in Oconto Falls. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, there is fiber that will be, more fiber that will be deployed here in Oconto Falls for the business park. Anything else? Well, terrific. At this, I would, couple things I'd say, and I'd like my colleague, Representative Mursaw, to come up, and we're going to do the listening session, and we will welcome any questions that people have in regards to the technology and all the rest, and so certainly do that. There's an organization that was not able to join us today. It goes by the acronym CAN. Is it Connect America Now? Is that accurate? So one of their goals is there are some holes in federal policy at this point in terms of requirements to be able to use TV white space, I believe. And so I would urge all of you, one of the things that CAN is doing is getting people to contact their federal legislators. In this instance, Representative Gallagher, Senator Johnson, Senator Baldwin, contact them and say, this TV white space is really important to rural Wisconsin as an option, to rural America as an option. And if you take the time to contact your legislators, your federal legislators, that would really be, us state legislators, we got it together, we're getting it done. No, they're doing some good stuff at the federal level also. But be sure to contact your federal legislators if you'll take the time and let them know that TV white space is a legitimate way to be able to expand broadband here in Wisconsin and across America. So with that.
I don't have a question. Does everybody know what TV white space is? Could we have somebody explain that and explain how close we are and why we have to have federal government dedicated 3 channels for TV white space?
So kind of like cover the basics of what TV white space is? And, yeah.
I talk about it quite a bit to people, and you know, they have questions because they don't know exactly what it is. So.
It is really, yeah, it's a different technology than what we've been talking about. It's an excellent question. Cory, you want to, yeah, come on up. And
I'll give it a nickel tour.
yeah, do it.
I'm not quite the engineer, but I'll give her a shot here at simplifying it a little bit. So several years ago, if you remember, when the federal government changed analog television signals from being broadcast and changed it over to required digital, those of us that maybe had bunny ears at our house or at a cottage, or in my case, hunting camp, we had to get a little digital converter box so it would make our analog TV understand the new digital broadcast frequency. So that's really when what we call contemporary TV white spaces emerged, and it was the unused frequencies that broadcasters were not using after that conversion. So analog signal is very, very hungry from a bandwidth perspective, so you only got so much airwave out there that can be used. Digital to analog took signal that was using this much airwave and shrunk it down to this much. So there's the unused portions, or what have been affectionately called TV white space. That signal frequency's got some unique characteristics that haven't been played with very much in the past, until the FCC allowed the door open for us to start messing around with it and learning how to use it. One of the unique characteristics that we found attractive, and of course Microsoft did as well, is its ability to propagate through forest, right? So there's a lot of wireless internet service providers that are doing really well with more contemporary spectrum out there in farming areas, where line of sight technology works very, very well. And Bertram's very antiquated with that. But the areas that are not being served today are areas of the North Woods here. We get not much farther north of Oconto Falls itself here, turns the forest pretty fast. And we're looking to serve those people without having to do logging for them to get that signal. Does that help?
It does. Could I give you just my simplified version of it?
Sure.
So just to simplify it, this is how I explain it. Actually, TV white space, you need 3 channels, dedicated channels. Now, with the spectrum opening up, those 3 channels are available. We have to have the FCC give those dedicated channels to the internet provider, so they don't go out and create all this technology, and companies do that and find out, oh, we lost our channels through all your routers and all your stuff away that you're getting your internet from. But TV white space, it's not kind of, fiber will always be the number one thing. But the TV white space part of it is they can put an antenna. It doesn't have to be 400 feet in the air. It can be on top of the school, and it could possibly do up to a 10-mile radius of service to give you, and I'm just going to say 24 up, 3 down, or the other way around, which that speed is good enough to stream Netflix, which I understand is quite a bit. So it gives you a speed that is pretty adequate to get your service from, but we can get it in areas. I think they're going to possibly do it in some, is it Dunbar? Are they going to use it in Dunbar? So Dunbar's in a pothole. They can't get service from any place. Nothing will go through. This stuff, putting in an antenna, will get it. And actually, they've taken it across the country, and it'll go through trees. It'll go through mountains, so to speak. I seen a picture of wherever it was, if it was in Africa or some place across the ocean with big hills and mountains. It'll go through there, and it'll actually get you your service to it. So you don't have to have line of sight. It's absolutely great technology, and it's just something for our areas in some of these potholes in Forest County where it's tough getting good service for their rescue and fire situations. It's something that I think is just going to turn our whole state around.
No, it's not what's traditionally called microwave.
Cory, would you address the grant for Marinette County, where that's going to cover generally speaking? Because that was part of this round of grants. Part of it was for Marinette County and a little bit in Forest County. Why don't you tell a little bit about that region?
Sure will. Thank you. So in Marinette County, we teamed with the county administration to create a public-private partnership, and also worked with our friends in the town of Dunbar. We're going to be lighting up 10 towers, primarily up and down the 141 corridor, and then heading east to Dunbar on Highway 8. We're going to create 10 white space macro sites and deliver a canopy just outside of the communities like Pound and Wasaki and Pembine and Amberg and Beecher and the town of Stevenson as we get west of Crivets out in your neck of the woods. So there's 10 towers impacting several thousand folks with availability to broadband. And then in southern Forest County, we worked with the town of Wabeno to build wired infrastructure at Trump Lake, which is a nice little lake community north of town, and then deploy 2 white space towers in and around the town of Wabeno. That'll give a few mile radius around what's traditionally only served by wired footprint. So that will have several hundred more homes and businesses impacted by connections.
Microsoft provided matching funds for those.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the reminder. So Microsoft absolutely was able, beyond our partnership, it actually was about what we were doing here and fulfilling their mission, is to create matching grant funds for us if we were awarded that. So we're going to be receiving nearly $100,000 across the grants that we applied for and were awarded to help us propagate these efforts even farther and deeper.
Go ahead, Paul.
So, if I avail myself of 24 down, 3 up, what's it gonna cost me?
Restate the question, Cory.
Did you say what's it going to cost you?
Yeah.
Depending on the technology we deploy, it could be somewhere between $50 and $75 a month.
So just restate the question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got to restate the question. I don't know the rhythm of these kind of events here. So the question was, what's it going to cost me
For the 20.
for the 25 by 3?
25. Go ahead. Anybody?
By our grant applications, we're actually in Marinette County and Forest County, Eau Claire and Chippewa County, not to undermine what we plan on doing in Oconto County. So most of Oconto County will have a touch of white space at some point in the future here.
So what kind of timetable are you looking at for implementation of the grant?
So the question was, what kind of timetable for the implementation of the grant? So we've got 2 years to spend the funding that the Public Service Commission matches us. We're going through the finalities of the paperwork to call it official, and that'll happen over the next couple of weeks. So once that's done, we'll have about 2 years from that date. However, many sites will have active connectivity by later this year.
I guess I keep asking.
You keep right on going.
What is the process and the timing to get the FCC to release those channels?
So to make a correction, the question was, what's the timing for the FCC to release those channels? Currently, they are open, but they're not promised, they're not guaranteed. And there's several channels out there. We're in a rural area, so I personally am not too worried about it, but we should put the pressure on the FCC. Now, to get back to the answer, is we need contiguous channels. So there's chunks of spectrum out there, these white spaces that are open. You have, say, Fox broadcasting here, chunk of white space. ABC broadcasting here, chunk of white space. What we want to do is have the FCC protect many of those channels together and not allow a new broadcaster to split up those contiguous channels. So taking chunks of spectrum and splitting them farther apart is a bad thing for this.
Cory, why don't you address, aren't there some areas that they're already using this with putting it on school buses?
Yeah, actually Microsoft partnered with, All Band Communications in Lower Michigan, over on the Lake Huron shoreline in Michigan's Lower Peninsula, where they're using the mobile version of the TV white space technologies to connect kids on school buses. And we're looking to share with our friends at Microsoft some lessons learned on that so we can do that. So we know that kids spend an enormous amount of time on school buses. It's just necessary when we're in a rural environment. I'm on my local Board of Education, and I know how many kids do not have broadband connection and how important it is that they have it. I've got a son in high school and a son in middle school. I happen to live in an area where broadband connection is good. My home has good broadband, and I appreciate that. I know a lot of my son's friends, plural, that do not have broadband. They're either coming over to my house or they're staying at school late or going to McDonald's or somewhere else that they can get a connection, and that's not really great for their learning environment. That's 38% of the students in my school district. So that kind of tugs a heartstring here when we get down to the buses. So some of the kids in my school district travel 45 minutes one way on a school bus. I'm sure that's not unique to Lena this is actually a pretty large geographical school district here in Oconto Falls. So long story short, we're piloting programs with Microsoft's help, and they're already trying it in downstate Michigan to connect school buses live with white space technology and then using wireless or Wi-Fi technology within the bus itself. So those kids have a connection for that 45-minute bus ride to continue doing their online homework, submitting assignments, and collaborating with other students.
So I would just add to that, excuse me, 45 minutes.
One way.
Yeah, one way. We got kids out where I live, they get on the school bus at 6:30. School starts at 8 o'clock, hour and a half ride. Something like this could really be beneficial for those kids that spend an hour plus, and that's not uncommon here in the Northwoods for kids to spend that long a time on a school bus. Go ahead, sir.
You guys have the press conference here in Oconto Falls, and you talked a little bit about Oconto County, and you mentioned 6 townships, and somebody else has the grant money for that, 600 grand?
So we're getting a little confused
Angie, you
on why
want
we're
to-
here.
Yeah, I'd like to know what you're gonna do for Oconto County. Comparing that to Morris, that's great.
Yep. I have the answer. So the big project that was funded here in Oconto County, I'm going to read a bit to you so I don't leave anything out, but it was a partnership between Oconto County Economic Development Corporation and Bertram Communications. And the 7 townships that are going to receive service, and you guys hold me accountable if I got this right from the application: Lakewood, Townsend, Mountain, Chute Pond, and Breed, and now you're going to know that I'm not originally from Wisconsin, Brazo, okay. And like I said, that's a $600,000 grant. Bertram is also putting $630,000 into this project, and there were numerous matching contributions from some of the towns, businesses, and citizens, totaling about $19,500. So it's about a $1.2 million project to serve these 7 communities. So very excited about this possibility here, and looking forward to hearing about the outcomes.
So that'll include towers and the use of the white space?
Now,
Wireless?
no, it's a wireless technology, but it's not TV white space technology. So, did I answer your question? I hope I did. Great.
The grant provides for the construction of 7 fixed wireless towers in the northern part of the county. We estimate that those towers would make service available or upgrade service to thousands of families.
Right. I'll add to that. The potential with this project is to reach approximately 3,700 households and 107 businesses. So, if you look at the area potentially covered by these towers. So kudos to Bertram and Oconto County.
So does the county determine where those, or does the township have to apply to get this? How does the funding work to determine where you're gonna do this?
Our provider is currently working on identifying sites for those towers.
Well, I sat down with more than 7 townships, find out what kind of interest that there was in the areas, did our due diligence as to where the pockets, if you were, of unserved or underserved areas in the county were, identified those, started working with landowners prior to doing the application, so that we had a proximity of where we could potentially put a tower site, and by doing that, do the engineering as to how far we can propagate radio frequency. At this point, it's not a white space play, but it's something that's fairly advanced also.
Yeah.
That we have to go off of that network.
I guess I would say, if you want to talk to us about that privately, individually, that's fine, but the purpose of this event today is to talk about the TV white space. We're very proud of what we're going to be doing here, but I say we stay focused on the subject at hand.
Yeah, we really wanted to emphasize TV white space because it's a new technology too. Have you used this in Wisconsin?
We've got test sites set up.
Yeah, so I mean, it's really new technology, but it is about all of the above. I mean, we've been doing wireless with some of the broadband grants. Of course, we've been using fiber, as is happening here in Oconto Falls. So it was a case of we think all of those technologies have their place, and they're funded in the grant program, all three of them. But because of TV white space, I mean, Representative Mursaw really hit the nail on the head. It's really a new technology people are not that familiar with. We wanted to emphasize that today, just so that people understand what it is, and you're going to be seeing more of it in this region. Stacy. So is the question, Stacy, that could this technology, TV white space, be used where you have that dense of forest?
I missed the first part of density. Where were you alluding to? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm understanding. I was having a hard time hearing you in the first round there. So the answer is maybe. I know that's not a great answer, but density of forest can change. So if you think about an aspen forest or a mature hardwood forest, you can see a long ways through it. As a hunter, I know that. If you get into some areas where it's very thick, coniferous forests, or maybe cedar swamps, if you will, where there's a lot more density, the signal's going to have to work harder to propagate. It's no difference, and I hate to use the microwave reference here, but if you put a roast in the microwave, it's not going to heat up as quickly or penetrate into the roast as quickly as something small, like a frozen piece of pizza or something. So the density of the forest is really going to affect the propagation of the signal through there. So instead of having one site that covers a big area, it may take 2, 3, or 4 sites to cover that same area, depending on that density or amount of hilly terrain there is. So it's not one size fits all. There's none of this. White space is getting a lot of buzz, and we're really energized about using the technology. But we've said over and over, it's going to take a lot of different technologies to solve the broadband riddle, and a lot of different thinking. We're just excited to have this quiver, or this arrow in our quiver.
How about Riverview? Is that included? Yeah, the other one I think is Riverview.
I forgot that, yep.
Yep.
Sorry about that.
And then the second question is, I'm a clerk for the council, and we're about 10 miles out of town. Would we be included in the initiatives they're going to be doing for Oconto Falls? They're putting towers up in this area. Would that reach our municipality? Or is there something that I need to get on board with for helping, let people know that we need the internet service? Our Telelink will all have Packerland Broadband wire service, but we have very limited, so anything we can do, if I have to write a grant, I have to do that. Anything I can do to let you know that our people really are looking for internet.
You're in the right place at the right time. After we're done here, I'll make sure you have my card and contact information, but I see the folks from Bertram here, and they'll probably give an answer to you as well. But what I will share is we'll make sure that our contact information is shared with folks, but website for the Public Service Commission, psc.wi.gov, and I've got some cards with me, so you folks won't have to write that down, but please don't hesitate to contact our us. We're happy to help communities connect with providers, to form these partnerships. Happy to help you with folks, connect you with folks in other communities that have done the same, to hear some of the strategies that they've taken. Certainly the legislators that are here in the room today are wonderful resources as well, but we'll connect you with the folks that can help you out, absolutely.
Yeah, most counties, what they're doing is they're driving this through their economic development people. And of course, Paul Erfurth is that person here in Oconto County. He's certainly someone you're going to want to be in touch with. He's the one that got the biggest grant that we've ever given in the state of Wisconsin for a rural broadband grant.
I didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. He's absolutely right. Any other questions? Yes, go ahead. Are you from Spruce also? Yeah, okay. That is why they are here today. And as Angie said, you came to the right place. We'll get things started now. And yeah, you know, I would make another point. You know, the broadband program started in 2014. We put $500,000 in it the first biennium of that budget. And you know, we were wondering, you know, how much more would it grow, if any. We went to $1.5 million the budget following that, and now we're up to, are we at $35 million for this budget?
35.5 between our broadband expansion grant program and a program called TEACH. It's Technology for Educational Achievement. It's actually the TEACH program that is helping fund Wi-Fi on school buses too. So. Yeah,
so we've seen a program that's really effective. I mean, what we saw in this last round of broadband grants was some really, as Angie said, it's a partnership, and public-private. We're seeing significant amounts of money coming in from that private side because they see how beneficial this is, and it really stretches the state's dollars further. I know as a legislator, I really like to see that where local communities say, okay, we're willing to we want to have some skin in the game here. We're willing to put some money into this. And that certainly enhances how I view this program. And it's part of the reason you're expanding it, why you're seeing an expansion in Wisconsin. $500,000, $1.5 million, now up to $35 million. And so it's really great news.
So I would like to add that to say, you know, come up with those business ideas, and you have some great partners in the region that are willing to listen. And whether it's TV white space or non-TV white space, it's those opportunities to bring something different. And the focus that Wisconsin has to allowing that and offering the grants and expanding the grants is something not every state has. So I would definitely say come up with those opportunities. And it does take people or programs to really make this happen. And so I want to say thanks though to everybody here with all the work that's been done over the last few years, and with some of the partnerships and grants that have been filled out to this point. Thanks.
Yeah, just to add to that a little bit further, where we wrote our applications or where people were organized, like you folks seem to be here that are all attending this meeting, and it was listening to the public ear, mainly through the administrators in those areas. So we talked with Marinette County. They were organized, they were ready. They challenged us as a provider in their county to partner with them and do something about it. So we listened and we did. And that's what it's about. It's about really, you know, challenging the status quo, challenging providers that are nearby or in the area to work with you and the administrators of your towns or counties or your economic development corporations or any other organization that can bring a concerned voice with. And we'll listen. We did listen.
Wrap that up. Along those lines, we do have another program through the Broadband Office at the Public Service Commission. It's called the Broadband Forward Community Program. It's a voluntary program, and I want to be really clear, it's not a requirement to receive funding through our grant program. but we call it a way to put out the welcome mat for that private investment. Broadband Forward Community Certification certifies a community that's adopted an ordinance to streamline their permitting process for broadband infrastructure projects. Town of Dunbar and Stevenson in Marinette County are both Broadband Forward communities, and that's where we had a few meetings with folks up there as well. So absolutely, if you're interested in Affinity, if that makes sense for you to take a look at that type of certification, you can contact me about that too. I'm happy to tell you more about it, but I want to be really clear. It's not a requirement for our funding. Doesn't give you any kind of extra advantage, but it is a way to let providers know that it's easy to do construction projects in your community.
Any other questions?
I was hoping Mr. Heigl clarified, because maybe I misunderstood the sound problem. It sounded like the white space portion of the project is limited to Forest and Marinette County. So I'm trying to make sure I understand what's happening in Oconto County and where they're providing what kind of service to.
Yeah, so I hear you loud and clear. We've got a little bit of a confusing venue here for it. So number one, we were here to celebrate bringing TV White Spaces to Wisconsin, the Microsoft partnership. Along this journey, just recently broadband grants were awarded. So it's kind of a little bit confusing regionally here when we're sitting here in Oconto County at Oconto Falls High School, and we're talking about grants that we wrote to neighboring counties. So I understand that confusion. But our project or our program of bringing TV White Spaces is not limited to the counties where we happen to receive some from state funding. We're looking to bring it to areas where there is need across the state. We're looking to use our partnership with Microsoft and others out there, whether there's a grant involved or not, really isn't materially important. We're trying to connect rural Americans, and we're going to start doing that this year, and we're going to do it faster and faster, and we'll do it in areas where we get the most help and the most support. So I hope that kind of clears up your question.
Partially.
Well, do a follow-up, let me help.
All right. So because you said you were testing something in Oconto Falls right now, but that is the white space part, that's something else?
No, we are testing white space here in Oconto Falls. We just have not advertised it and given it to a customer.
So is the plans for the upgrades here at your venues, communities you serve in the county, is that white space, or is that going to be other types of improvements? I'm not sure where you all provide service besides Oconto Falls and I think Surrey.
We're in a lot of communities very, very near here. So Surrey, Oconto Falls, Gillett, Bondwell, Krakow, to name a few I can keep going here, Kelly Lake. So it's going to be a combination of technologies. White space is just something we're celebrating to reach areas that have not been able to be reached before, primarily because of visual obstruction. So that might be a run of forest that's not farm field. You know, if we've got a site that's nearby where we can deploy wireless technologies and blast through those woods and then get people connected on the other side, we hope to do so.
So white space technology is potential to be rolled out here in Oconto County.
Absolutely. It's not potential, it's intentional, we will.
Did we get everybody? Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Really appreciate you attending this, and I want to thank Michelle from Microsoft, Cory from Packerland, and Angie, our broadband director here in Wisconsin, for taking the time to come up here to Oconto Falls today and joining us. Thank you so much. And you know, this is kind of just the first step in making sure people know all the technologies that are available, and via the state grants, we're funding a variety of technologies depending upon where they work best for particular communities. We're not tied into just one technology. You know, I think back to 6-7 years ago, everybody was like, boy, how are we going to get fiber to everywhere here in the Northwoods? Well, we've got other technologies that are more cost efficient than fiber to be able to connect our communities, and we want to do all of the above. So once again, thank you, and once again, Administrator Hess, and for your group, thank you so much for allowing us to come into Oconto Falls School today. You have a wonderful facility. Thank you for hosting us. And it was great to be here, and we'll be here for a few minutes afterwards if anybody has questions. Yeah, thank you.